I sat in the back of the sleek black limousine, my hands clenched into fists. The city blurred past as we sped through the streets, the hum of the engine barely audible over the rapid beating of my heart. It had been a long day filled with meetings, phone calls, and more paperwork than I could handle, but nothing could prepare me for what I was about to walk into. As the car pulled up to the mansion, I noticed the lights were on, but something felt off. My instincts had been telling me something was wrong the moment I stepped into the car earlier that evening, but I had ignored it. Now, as the limo came to a slow stop in front of the grand entrance, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change. My daughter was waiting inside. She was the one person who had truly mattered to me in the last few years. She had come into my life unexpectedly, a twist of fate that had turned my world upside down. She was my adopted daughter, Maya, a 10-year-old girl with dark brown skin and eyes that held a wisdom far beyond her years. I had chosen to adopt her after meeting her through a charity event, and despite everything she had been through, she had become the light of my life. As the limo door swung open, I stepped out and made my way to the front door, my thoughts racing. The sound of her screams cut through the air, sharp and full of terror, instantly freezing me in my tracks. My heart skipped a beat. The door was wide open, and I rushed inside without thinking. There was no time to waste. I had heard Maya's screams before, but this was different. The terror in her voice sent a chill down my spine, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I ran through the house, my mind racing with possibilities, but nothing prepared me for the sight that awaited me. In the living room, Maya was standing in the middle of the room, her eyes wide with fear, her body trembling. She was staring at a man I did not recognize, a stranger, his face twisted in anger. The moment our eyes met, I froze. The man's expression was cold, his eyes filled with malice. "Maya," I said, my voice tight with fear, "are you okay?" But Maya didn't answer. She didn't even look at me. She was still staring at the man, her body rigid with fear. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping forward, but the man didn't move. He just stood there, smirking as if he was waiting for something. "You shouldn't have adopted her," the man said, his voice low and taunting. "You don't know who she really is." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. I was frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. What did he mean by that? Who was Maya really? I wanted to ask more, but my mind was spinning, and I couldn't form the words. The man stepped forward, a dangerous glint in his eyes. He was about to say something else when Maya suddenly spoke, her voice trembling but strong. "He's lying," she said, her words sharp and filled with a truth that I couldn't ignore. "He's not who he says he is." The room seemed to freeze. Maya's voice had shattered the silence, and for the first time that night, I realized how much I had underestimated her. She wasn't the scared little girl I thought she was. She was something far stronger, far more capable. My heart sank as I looked at her, and I realized in that moment that everything I knew about Maya was about to be turned upside down. What had I done? Who was I really bringing into my life? I stood frozen, staring at the man in the living room. The weight of his words hung in the air like a thick fog, suffocating everything around us. "You shouldn't have adopted her," the man had said. "You don't know who she really is." I could feel the blood draining from my face as his words echoed in my head. What did he mean? Who was Maya really? I turned to look at my daughter, but she wasn't looking at me. Her eyes were still locked on the man, her body tense as though she was preparing for something. I could hear my breath shallow as I took a step forward, my hand outstretched in an attempt to reach her. "Maya," I called again, my voice shaking. "Who is he? What's going on?" Maya's eyes finally shifted towards me. But there was something in them that I had never seen before. It wasn't the fear I had come to expect from her. It wasn't the wide-eyed panic of a child in trouble. No, it was something else, something deeper, something I wasn't prepared for. "He's lying," Maya said quietly, her voice surprisingly strong for someone so young. "He's not who he says he is." My mind raced, my heart pounded in my chest. Who was this man? And why was Maya so certain that he was lying? I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Everything in my body wanted to believe Maya. She had never lied to me before, and I knew her well enough to see when something was off. But this was different. This wasn't some small mistake or misunderstanding. This was something much bigger. The man stepped forward, his smirk growing wider. He knew something I didn't, something I was missing, and I could see it in his eyes. The control he had over the situation was palpable. "You really don't know, do you?" he asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "You've been played. You've been lied to. Maya. Maya is not your daughter. She never was." My chest tightened. The words felt like they had come straight out of a nightmare. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Maya's face was expressionless, her eyes locked onto the stranger's. It was as if she were waiting for him to say something more, something that would finally make sense of this madness. I looked at Maya, my throat dry, my mind racing. "Maya, what is he talking about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she glanced at the man one last time before she slowly turned to face me. There was a shift in her gaze, something that went beyond the fear or confusion I had seen earlier. There was a quiet resolve in her eyes now, a calmness that I couldn't fully comprehend. "I'm not who you think I am," Maya said softly, her words hitting me like a freight train. I couldn't process it. I couldn't make sense of it. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice breaking. "You've always been my daughter. I adopted you. You're my daughter, Maya. What is he talking about?" She took a deep breath, her gaze never leaving mine. "I wasn't always in the foster system," she said slowly, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. "I wasn't always the little girl you met in that shelter. I wasn't just adopted." My heart skipped a beat. There was something in her voice, something hidden, something I wasn't hearing. I looked at the man, my eyes narrowing. "What is she talking about?" I demanded. The man's smirk faded slightly, but he didn't back down. Instead, he took a step closer, his eyes flicking between Maya and me. "She's not just any orphan," he said coldly. "Maya is the daughter of someone powerful, someone who can destroy everything you have if they want to." My mind reeled. What was he saying? Who was Maya really? And why had she kept this from me? The room felt colder as the realization began to sink in. Everything I thought I knew about her, everything I thought I knew about our life together, was suddenly in question. Maya wasn't just a child I had taken in. She wasn't just the innocent girl I had tried to help. She was someone with a past I didn't know about, a past that was connected to people I couldn't even imagine. "Maya," I said quietly, my voice barely a whisper. "Why didn't you tell me?" She closed her eyes for a moment, her shoulders sagging as though the weight of the truth was finally hitting her. "I didn't want you to see me differently," she said softly. "I didn't want you to think I was someone else." The silence in the room was deafening. The man's presence seemed to loom over us, filling the space with an unsettling tension. I wanted to reach out to Maya, to comfort her, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what to say anymore. "Who are you?" I asked the man again, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and anger. "Why are you here, and what does this have to do with Maya?" The man let out a sigh, almost as if he were bored by the entire situation. "Let's just say I'm a reminder," he said coldly. "A reminder that there's always more to a person than what they show on the surface. Maya isn't who you think she is, and neither are you." I was standing there, my heart racing, as the man's words echoed through the room. Every fiber of my being screamed for answers, but nothing made sense. I looked at Maya, my daughter, the one person I had been trying to protect and care for. How had everything come to this? Why hadn't she told me the truth? She had always been so quiet, so full of secrets. But now, with the man's confession hanging in the air, I understood why. She wasn't just a little girl who needed my help. She was someone with a past, a hidden life, one that I had never even suspected. The man stepped forward, and I instinctively took a step back. His eyes were cold, unblinking, as if he were waiting for me to fully absorb the bombshell he had just dropped. "Maya is the daughter of someone powerful," he said again, his voice smooth but filled with contempt. "Someone who can destroy you, if they choose." My stomach churned. The weight of his words pressed down on me like 1,000 pounds. How was it possible that my daughter, the sweet little girl who had been through so much, was tied to someone who could ruin me? I turned to Maya, but she didn't look like the girl I had adopted. She wasn't trembling or afraid. No, she was standing there with a quiet strength that I had never seen before. a calmness that didn't belong in a child her age. It was as if the weight of this revelation had unlocked something inside her, something I had never known. "Who is it, Maya?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you really?" Maya's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw the truth in them. It wasn't fear or uncertainty. It was something much deeper. She took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her words were slow but deliberate. "I didn't want to tell you," she said softly. "I didn't want you to look at me differently." "Maya," I said, my voice cracking, "please tell me the truth. Who are you really? What is all of this about?" Maya stepped back, her arms folded across her chest as if to shield herself from the weight of the question. "My real father is someone you wouldn't believe if I told you," she said. "He's not just any ordinary person. He's someone who can control everything, and when he finds out where I am, he will come for you." The man nodded, as if to confirm her words. "I see you've finally understood," he said, his voice filled with dark amusement. "You thought you were just helping a poor, abandoned child. But Maya is far more than that. She's the key to something much bigger, something much more dangerous." My mind was spinning, trying to process everything that was happening. This wasn't the world I had known. This wasn't the life I had built. I had taken Maya in because I thought she needed me. I had wanted to give her a chance, to help her have a better life. But now, the truth was staring me in the face, and I realized I had no idea who I was really helping. The room was eerily quiet now, the only sound being the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. My thoughts were racing. Who could Maya's father be? What kind of power did he have that could destroy everything I had worked for? Was Maya in danger? Was I? The man looked at me, his expression cold and calculating. "You don't understand yet," he said, "but you will soon. Maya isn't just a child. She's a pawn in a much bigger game, and you've just become part of that game." I took a step forward, my fists clenched, ready to fight for the truth, for my daughter. "What game?" I demanded. "What are you talking about?" The man smiled, a slow, menacing smile that sent a shiver down my spine. "You'll see soon enough," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Everything is about to change. Your life, your world, everything you know, will be turned upside down. And it's all because of Maya." I turned to look at Maya once more. She wasn't just the innocent girl I had thought she was. She wasn't just a little girl I had promised to protect. She was something far more dangerous, and I didn't know if I was prepared for what was coming next. I stood there, my heart racing, as the man's words hung in the air. I could feel the weight of his statement crushing me from all sides. Maya wasn't just any little girl. She was a piece in a much bigger, more dangerous game than I could have ever imagined. The man's words continued to echo in my mind, and the truth slowly began to sink in. The girl I had taken in, the one I had promised to protect and love, wasn't who I thought she was. She had secrets, a past, and connections to people who could destroy me with a snap of their fingers. My world was spinning, and I didn't know how to stop it. Maya stood across the room from me, her face calm, but there was an edge to her that I hadn't seen before. It was as if she had become someone else entirely in the span of a few moments. She wasn't the scared child I had taken in. She wasn't the innocent girl who needed saving. No, she was someone far more complicated, far more dangerous. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Maya," I said, my voice shaking, "who is your father? What do you mean by all of this?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. It wasn't fear, it wasn't confusion. It was something deeper, something that had been hidden from me for years. "I can't tell you everything," Maya said softly, "but I can tell you this. My father is someone who controls everything. He's not just some rich businessman or politician. He's someone who can make things disappear with a word. He's been watching me for years. And now, he knows where I am." The air seemed to grow colder with every word she spoke. I wanted to reach out to her, to comfort her, but there was something in her voice, something in her eyes, that stopped me. It was as if she was warning me that I wasn't ready for the truth. "What does he want with you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Maya hesitated for a moment, as if she was weighing whether or not to tell me the truth. "He wants control," she said finally. "He wants me to follow his rules, to be a part of his world. But I don't want that. I don't want anything to do with him or his world. The man who had been standing silently in the corner of the room suddenly spoke, his voice low and filled with menace. "You think she has a choice?" he asked, his words dripping with disdain. "She doesn't. None of us do. You think you're going to protect her? You think you're going to change her? You're nothing but a pawn in this game. Just like she is." The room seemed to shrink around me, the weight of his words pressing down on me. My mind was spinning. How had I become a part of this? How had my life, my world, become so entangled in this mess? I looked at Maya again, my heart breaking. This wasn't the future I had imagined for her. This wasn't the life I had promised her when I had brought her into my home. "Maya," I said, my voice filled with desperation, "we'll figure this out. We'll find a way to get through this together. You don't have to be a part of his world." But Maya shook her head slowly, her eyes filled with sadness. "I'm already in it," she said quietly, "and so are you." The man let out a soft chuckle, as if everything was unfolding just as he had planned. "You're already involved, whether you like it or not," he said. "There's no turning back now. Maya is a part of something much bigger than either of you can comprehend. And you're going to have to deal with the consequences." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had never imagined that my life, that Maya's life, would come to this. I had thought I was doing the right thing by bringing her into my home, by giving her a chance at a better life. But now, everything was falling apart. I looked at Maya again, my heart heavy with regret. She wasn't the little girl I had promised to protect. She was part of a world that I didn't understand, a world I couldn't control. And now, I was a part of it too. I had no idea what was coming next, but I knew one thing for sure. Everything was about to change. I could feel the weight of everything crashing down around me. My mind was racing as the man's words continued to echo in my head, a relentless pounding that I couldn't escape. I had tried to protect Maya, to give her the life she deserved, but now everything I thought I knew about her was falling apart. She wasn't just a little girl from the foster system. She wasn't the innocent child I had adopted and raised with love. No, she was part of something much darker, something far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. I turned to Maya, my heart pounding in my chest. She had always been quiet, reserved even, but this was different. There was a quiet strength in her now, something I had never seen before. I had always thought I knew her, but now I was starting to wonder how much of her I really knew. She wasn't the scared little girl I had brought into my home. She was someone else, someone who had been playing a role, hiding something from me all along. "Maya," I said, my voice shaking with desperation, "tell me the truth. Who is your father? What is all of this about?" Maya met my gaze, her eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. She looked like she was on the edge of something, as if she had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the truth to come out. She took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world was on them. "I never wanted you to know," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted you to see me this way, but I have to tell you now. My father. He's not who you think he is. He's not just a businessman or some rich guy. He's a power, a force, something that can tear everything apart with a single word." The words hit me like a slap in the face. Maya had never spoken like this before. She had never given me any indication that she knew so much, that she was so deeply connected to something so dark. I had thought I was giving her a better life, that I was protecting her, but now I was beginning to realize how much I had been in the dark. The man in the corner of the room, the one who had been silent until now, spoke again, his voice cold and full of malice. "You still don't understand," he said, shaking his head. "You think you're protecting her? You think you can save her from this? You're just as much a pawn as she is." His words stung, each one cutting deeper than the last. How had I become part of this? How had I gotten caught up in something so dangerous, something so out of my control? I looked at Maya again, my heart heavy with guilt. She wasn't just a child in need of a home. She was part of a world that I didn't understand, a world I couldn't protect her from. "I don't want to be a part of this world," Maya said softly, her voice barely audible. "I don't want to do the things he wants me to do. I don't want to be what he wants me to be. But I don't have a choice." My heart shattered at her words. I had tried so hard to give her a better life, to give her a future. But now, It seemed like everything I had done had only led us to this point, this moment of realization. Maya wasn't just caught in something bigger than me. She was trapped in a game that I couldn't even begin to understand. The man stepped forward, his cold eyes locked on me. "You think you can change things?" he sneered. "You can't change anything. Maya belongs to us. She always has." I took a step back, my fists clenched at my sides. "I won't let you take her," I said, my voice low and steady. "I won't let you control her." The man laughed, a harsh, bitter laugh that sent a chill down my spine. "You have no power here," he said. "You never did. You think you're the one in control, but you're just a small piece in a much larger game, and you're about to learn that the hard way." My mind was racing. The man's words were starting to sink in, and I realized just how deep this went. I had thought that by adopting Maya, I could save her, but I had no idea what I was up against. I was in over my head, and the danger was closing in around us. I looked at Maya again, my heart breaking. She wasn't just the little girl I had brought into my life. She was a part of something far bigger, something far more dangerous. And I was caught in it, just like her. I had to find a way out. I had to find a way to protect her, even if it meant going up against forces I didn't understand. But for the first time, I wasn't sure if I had the strength to fight. The game had already begun, and it seemed like I was already losing. I stood in the middle of the room, feeling the weight of everything pressing in on me. My thoughts were a whirlwind, spinning faster than I could process. The man's words had shattered everything I thought I knew about Maya, about myself, and about the world I had tried to protect her from. She wasn't just an innocent child who needed help. She was a pawn in a game far bigger than I could ever imagine. I had thought I could save her. But now, I wasn't so sure. The man, who had been watching me closely, stepped forward, his expression cold and calculating. "You think you can protect her?" he asked, his voice filled with disdain. "You can't. Maya is already tied to this world. She's been a part of it from the beginning. And you're nothing but a distraction. You think you're the hero in this story? You're not. You're just another player in a game you don't understand." I clenched my fists, my body tense with anger and frustration. "I don't care what you say," I replied, my voice low and steady. "I'm not going to let you take her." The man smiled, a cold, mirthless smile that sent a chill through me. "You're not in control here," he said, his tone mocking. "You never were." My heart pounded in my chest. I had tried so hard to give Maya a better life, to protect her from the horrors I had seen in my own childhood. But now, it seemed like everything I had done had only led to this point. Maya wasn't just a little girl I had saved. She was part of something bigger, something far more dangerous than I could ever comprehend. "Maya," I said, my voice cracking with emotion, "tell me the truth. Who is your father? What is all of this about?" Maya didn't respond immediately. She just stood there, her expression unreadable. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the struggle between the girl she had been and the person she was becoming. "I don't want this life," Maya said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "I never did, but I don't have a choice. My father is powerful. He controls everything. And now, I'm a part of it." The words hit me like a slap. Maya had always been quiet, reserved, but this was something different. She wasn't the girl I had raised. She wasn't the girl I had brought into my home. She was a person shaped by a world I couldn't protect her from, a world I hadn't even known existed. "I didn't ask for this," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't ask for my father's power. I didn't ask for any of this, but I don't have a choice. You can't protect me from him. You can't protect me from what's coming." The man laughed again, a low, sinister chuckle. "She's right," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "You can't protect her. None of you can. Maya is bound to this world, and there's nothing you can do about it. She's already made her choice." My mind was reeling, struggling to process everything. I had thought I was doing the right thing by adopting Maya, by giving her a chance at a better life. But now, it seemed like I had only opened a door to a world of darkness I had no hope of understanding. "I don't believe you," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "Maya is my daughter. I'll protect her, no matter what." The man's smile faded slightly. but his eyes remained cold. "You don't understand," he said. "This isn't about protection. This is about power. Maya is part of something much bigger than you. She always has been. And you're just a stepping stone." The words hit me hard, the weight of them settling into my chest like a stone. I wanted to deny it, to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't. The truth was staring me in the face, and I wasn't sure I could handle it. Maya wasn't just a little girl in need of a home. She was part of something far more dangerous, something that I couldn't protect her from. I had thought I could shield her from the world, but now I realized the world was already inside her. "You're wrong," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't care what you say. She's my daughter, and I will protect her." The man shrugged, his expression unchanged. "Believe what you want," he said. "But you're already too deep in. There's no way out now." The weight of his words hit me like a wave, crashing over me. I had no idea what was coming next, but I knew one thing for sure. Everything had changed. Maya's life, my life, everything I thought I knew about the world we lived in, was about to be turned upside down. I had to find a way to protect her. I had to find a way to fight back, but I had no idea where to start. I could feel the tension in the room rising with every passing second. The man's words had struck a chord deep within me, and the weight of his warning hung heavy in the air. Maya wasn't just my daughter. She was a piece in a much larger, more dangerous game. And the fact that I had become part of that game, whether I liked it or not, was something I was still struggling to accept. The truth was overwhelming, but it was undeniable. "I don't believe you," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. But even as I said the words, I knew that I was lying to myself. The man wasn't wrong. Maya wasn't the person I thought she was, and everything I had done to protect her was now in question. Maya turned her gaze to me, her eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. She didn't say anything, but there was something in the way she looked at me that made me realize she was no longer the scared little girl I had brought into my home. She was something else. "Maya," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "please, I need to understand. What is this? What's really going on?" She didn't look away, but instead, she took a step closer to me, her expression unreadable. "I told you," she said softly. "I didn't want you to know this. I didn't want to bring you into this world. But now, it's too late." My heart sank as her words hit me. It was too late. The world that had been hidden from me, the world that Maya had been a part of from the very beginning, was now unraveling right in front of me. "I never asked for this," she continued, her voice filled with regret. "But it doesn't matter anymore. My father's power is too strong. I can't escape it. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, to tell her everything would be okay. But the truth was, I didn't know if it would be okay." The man was right. We were already too deep in, and the consequences of trying to pull away could be catastrophic. The man stepped forward again, his eyes never leaving mine. He could sense my fear, my uncertainty. "You think you have a choice," he said with a sneer. "You think you can just walk away from this? You're already in it. Just like Maya. You can't run. You can't hide. The only thing left to do is accept it." The words hit me like a physical blow. Everything in me screamed to fight back, to protect Maya, to somehow stop this nightmare from swallowing us whole. But how could I fight when I didn't even understand the rules of the game I was now a part of? "I won't give up on her," I said, my voice firm, even though doubt gnawed at the edges of my resolve. "I'll do whatever it takes to keep her safe." The man's laughter echoed in the room, cruel and mocking. "You don't understand," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "You can't keep her safe. No one can. The game is already in motion, and you're nothing more than a spectator, watching it all unfold." I felt the air leave my lungs as the truth of his words sank in. Maya wasn't just a little girl in need of protection. She was part of something much larger, something I couldn't possibly comprehend. She had always been in this game, and now, so was I. "You don't have to be a part of this," I said, more to myself than to anyone else. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. Maya's fate, and mine, were already sealed. There was no turning back. The man stood in front of me, his presence filling the room. He had already won. "It's too late," he said simply. "You're already too involved." My mind was racing, trying to find a way out, but there was no escape. The world Maya was a part of was one I couldn't touch, couldn't fight, couldn't change. And as I looked at her, standing there with a quiet strength I had never seen before, I realized just how much had changed. Maya had grown up in a world where survival meant accepting power, control, and manipulation. And now, I was part of that world too. The man turned and began to walk away, his footsteps heavy with the weight of the truth he had just revealed. "You're in this now," he said over his shoulder, "and there's no getting out, not for any of us." I stood there, frozen, as his words settled over me like a dark cloud. Everything I thought I knew about Maya, about the world I had tried to build for her, was now shattered, and the only thing I was sure of was that nothing would ever be the same again. I stood in the silence of the room, the weight of the man's words hanging heavily in the air. The game he had spoken of wasn't just about power or control, it was about survival in a world I could never understand. Maya, my adopted daughter, wasn't just a victim of circumstance. She was a key player in a much larger, far more dangerous game. And now, it seemed, I was part of it too. The room felt colder as the realization began to settle in. I couldn't protect her from this. I couldn't shield her from the world she had been born into, the world that had quietly been waiting for her all along. The man's words kept repeating in my head, each one more chilling than the last. "You're already in it," he had said. "There's no turning back." I wanted to fight back, to reject everything he said, but deep down I knew the truth. We were already too deep. There was no escaping it now. I turned to Maya, hoping for some sign that this wasn't true, that we could still escape, that we could find a way out. But when I looked into her eyes, all I saw was resignation. She wasn't the scared little girl I had once taken in. She had become someone else entirely. "Maya," I said softly, stepping closer to her. "Please, tell me there's a way out. Tell me we can fix this." She didn't speak right away. Instead, she looked down at the floor, her shoulders slumping, as if the weight of the truth was finally catching up with her. Then, slowly, she lifted her head and met my gaze. "There's no way out," she said quietly. "I wish there was. I wish I could change everything. But this is my reality. This is our reality now." Her voice was steady, but the sadness in her eyes was unmistakable. The game, the world she was a part of, was far beyond my reach. "You're still my daughter," I said, my voice trembling. "No matter what, I'm not going to give up on you." Maya shook her head slowly, her face hardening as if she were bracing for what was to come. "It's not that simple," she replied. "I don't belong to you. Not anymore. I belong to something else, something that you can't fight." The words stung more than I expected. I had thought, I had hoped, that we could find a way to make things right, that she could have the life she deserved. But now I understood. Maya had never truly been mine to protect. She had always been part of a world that didn't care about me, didn't care about her, only about what she could offer. The man who had been standing silently in the corner of the room stepped forward again, his presence as imposing as ever. "You still don't get it," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "Maya is not just some orphan you took in. She's part of something much bigger, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Nothing." I wanted to lash out, to throw something, to scream at him to leave us alone, but I couldn't. He was right. This was bigger than me, bigger than anything I could comprehend. "So, what now?" I asked, my voice filled with bitterness. "What happens to us now?" The man smiled, a cruel, empty smile. "Now," he said slowly, "you'll see what happens when you try to fight forces beyond your control. Maya has already made her choice. Now, it's your turn to see what that choice means for both of you." I felt a cold chill settle in my chest as his words sank in. There was no escaping this, no turning back. Maya and I were already part of something much darker than I could ever have imagined, and I had no idea how we were going to survive it. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to stop fighting. Not yet. Even if it meant facing an enemy I couldn't see. Even if it meant going up against a world that was too powerful for me to comprehend. I was going to protect Maya, no matter what the cost. I looked at Maya one last time, trying to find the little girl I had adopted all those years ago, the girl who had once filled my life with light. But the girl standing before me now was different. She was no longer the scared, innocent child. She was someone else. Someone who had been shaped by a world of darkness. And now, I was a part of it too. The man turned and began walking toward the door, his footsteps echoing in the silence. "You'll learn soon enough," he said, his voice fading as he left the room. "Everything is going to change." And with that, he was gone. I was left standing in the room, staring at the door he had just walked through, with Maya standing beside me, a quiet reminder that we had crossed a line we couldn't uncross. I watched as the man disappeared through the door, leaving us in a silence so thick it felt suffocating. The world outside, the life I thought I understood, seemed like a distant memory now. Maya stood beside me, her eyes focused on the empty space where the man had stood just moments ago. It was as if she had already accepted the truth, as though the reality of what had been said no longer fazed her. But I could feel it. The weight of everything crashing down on me. I was in too deep now, deeper than I could have ever imagined. Maya was no longer just the girl I had adopted. She was part of a world filled with power, control, and manipulation, and I was hopelessly tangled in it. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "Maya," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper, "I don't know what to do. I never signed up for this. This game they're talking about. I don't know how to protect you from all of this." She turned to face me, her expression calm but distant. "You can't protect me from it," she said quietly. "You never could. I'm already in this, and so are you. We've crossed a line we can't uncross." Her words stung, and yet, they were the truth. The man had been right. We were both trapped in this world, and there was no way out. I had tried to be the protector, the one who could shield her from the dangers lurking just beyond our door. But now I saw how foolish I had been. I had no control. I was just a pawn in a game I didn't even understand. I ran my hand through my hair, trying to clear my thoughts, but nothing seemed to make sense. What had I gotten myself into? What had I brought Maya into? And most importantly, how had this all started? "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, the question burning in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me who you really are? Why keep me in the dark?" Maya's face softened, and she stepped closer to me. "I didn't want you to see me differently," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't want you to think I was just like them." I could hear the pain in her voice, the years of fear and confusion that had built up inside her. It broke my heart to see her like this. "Maya," I said softly, "I don't care who you are. You're my daughter. I'll always be here for you, no matter what. I just need you to trust me." She looked up at me, her eyes filled with sadness. "I do trust you," she whispered. "But trust doesn't change what's happening. Trust doesn't change the fact that my father is coming for me." I felt a chill run down my spine at her words. Her father, the man who controlled everything, the one with the power to destroy us both, the one I had never even met. "What does he want from you?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Maya hesitated for a moment, then spoke, her words slow and measured. "He wants me to follow him," she said, "to take my place in his world, to become like him. But I don't want that. I never did. I've been running from him my whole life." I stood there, stunned, as the truth began to sink in. Maya wasn't just running from her father's influence. She was trying to escape a destiny that had been forced upon her, one she never chose. I had always known there was more to her story, more to her past, but now I realized just how little I truly knew. I had been so focused on giving her a better life, I hadn't even considered the life she had left behind. "I won't let him have you," I said, the words coming out more fiercely than I intended. "We'll fight this together, whatever it takes." Maya shook her head, her expression filled with sorrow. "It's not that simple," she said. "You don't understand. He's not someone you can fight. He's a force. You can't just stand against him. He will destroy everything in his path." Her words hit me like a cold wave. The man had been right again. I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared to face the kind of enemy Maya's father was. "Then what do we do?" I asked, my voice cracking with frustration. "What do we do when there's nowhere to run, when we can't escape?" Maya looked at me for a long moment, and then, for the first time since all of this started, she smiled. It wasn't a bright smile, but it was a smile nonetheless. "We fight," she said, her voice strong. "We find a way. We don't give up. Not now. Not ever." Her words filled me with a sense of determination, even if I wasn't sure how we were going to fight back. But in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. Maya wasn't going to let this world break her, and I wasn't going to let it break us either. We might have been caught in a game we didn't understand, but together, we would find a way to survive. Together, we would fight. I stood in the living room, trying to process everything that had happened. Maya's words echoed in my mind. We fight. We don't give up. She wasn't just a scared little girl anymore. She had transformed into someone strong, someone who had faced impossible odds her entire life and survived. And now, she was asking me to join her. We were in this together. The reality of the situation hit me all over again. Maya's father, the man with the power to destroy us both, was coming. I had no idea what kind of power he held, but I knew one thing. We had to prepare. Maya had spent her whole life trying to escape him. And now, here we were, standing in the very path he was walking toward. But I wasn't going to let her face him alone. I couldn't. Not now. Not after everything we had been through. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, marking the seconds that felt like hours. I turned to Maya, who stood by the window, her eyes watching the street outside, her posture tense. She wasn't looking at me, but I knew she was waiting for something. She was waiting for me to act, waiting for me to lead, to take charge of what came next. I took a deep breath and walked toward her. Maya, I said, my voice steady, though the fear inside me was almost unbearable. We don't know what's coming, but we need a plan. We need to figure out how to face this. She turned toward me, her expression calm but hard. I don't know what's coming either, she said, but I do know one thing. We can't run. We've been running all our lives, and it's time to stop. Her words hit me harder than I expected. She was right. We had always been running from her father's influence, from the dark world that had been trying to pull her in, but running wasn't going to save us anymore. Then what do we do? I asked, my voice tinged with desperation. What do you think we should do? Maya's eyes locked with mine, and for the first time since all of this started, I saw a glimmer of hope in her. We fight, she said simply. We find out who he is, what he wants, and we stop him. Her determination was unwavering, and I felt a surge of strength deep within me. I wasn't sure how we would do it, but I knew we had no other choice. We couldn't give up. Not now. Not when we were so close to the truth. We need to be smart, I said, starting to pace. We need to find allies, people who can help us fight back. Maya nodded, but her eyes were already far away, her mind working through every possible angle. We also need to be prepared, she said. We have no idea what kind of power he's got, and we can't just rely on hope. We need to know exactly what we're up against. I paused and looked at her, realizing just how much she had grown, how much she had already known. She had been a child, but now she was becoming something else, someone who could take on the world if necessary. She was stronger than I could have ever imagined. I know, I said, my voice filled with new determination. We'll prepare. We'll learn everything we can, and we'll fight back. Maya looked at me for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether she believed me, whether she believed that we could actually do this. And then, slowly, she nodded. I believe we can, she said quietly. But we have to be careful. This world is dangerous. My father won't just let us walk away. He'll come for us, and he won't stop until we're destroyed. Her words sent a cold shiver down my spine, but I nodded. She was right. This wasn't going to be easy. We were up against something far bigger than we could handle on our own. But we weren't alone. We had each other, and together, we would fight. The next few days passed in a blur. We spent our time researching, reaching out to people who might have information about Maya's father and the world he controlled. We found out very little, but the pieces of the puzzle were slowly starting to come together. Every step we took felt like it brought us closer to the truth, closer to the enemy we had to face. Maya was more focused than ever, her mind sharp as she planned every move, every possible angle. I had never seen her like this. She wasn't just the scared girl I had adopted. She was a force to be reckoned with. The day finally came when we found the first clue, something that could lead us to the man who had controlled her life from the shadows. We didn't know if it was enough, but it was all we had. It was time to move. We were going to face this head on. and whatever came next, we were ready to fight. I stared at the computer screen, the dim light from the desk lamp casting shadows over my face. The words on the screen were clear, but my mind couldn't quite comprehend them. It was as though the truth had been placed right in front of me, but I couldn't fully grasp it. Maya's father wasn't just some distant figure in her past. He was still very much a part of her life, a dark shadow lurking just outside our door. The information we had gathered from the contacts we'd reached out to was overwhelming. He was more than just wealthy or influential. He controlled entire industries, had connections in governments, and his reach extended farther than we could have ever imagined. Maya wasn't just running from him. She was running from a legacy of power that had shaped her entire life, a life that she could never escape. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of it all. The reality of our situation was sinking in, and with it came the fear that we were in way over our heads. We had started this journey thinking we could protect Maya, but now it seemed like the more we learned, the more we were drawn into this world we had no place in. "We have to go." Maya's voice broke through my thoughts. She was standing by the door, her bags packed, her expression unreadable. She had been quiet for hours, processing everything the same way I had been. "What do you mean?" I asked, standing up. "Where are we going?" "We need to get to him before he gets to us," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "The longer we wait, the more chances he has to find us. We can't let him control everything." The words she spoke were laced with determination, but I could also see the fear in her eyes. She had been running her whole life, trying to stay one step ahead of a man who held the power to destroy her, and now, I realized, she was done running. Maya wasn't the scared little girl I had taken in. She was a fighter, and I had no choice but to stand by her side. "Okay," I said, my voice steady. "We'll do this together." The truth was, I didn't know what the next step was. We had no plan, no backup, and no clear path forward. But what I did know was that we couldn't sit back and wait. Maya's father wouldn't stop. He wouldn't rest until he had everything under his control, and the longer we waited, the more he would close in on us. "Do you have any idea where he is?" I asked, trying to make sense of it all. "I've been tracking his movements for months," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I know where he's been, and I know where he's headed next. We just have to get there before he does." "How long do we have?" I asked. Maya paused for a moment, checking her phone for updates. "Not much longer. He's close. Too close." I could see the urgency in her eyes. We didn't have time to waste. It was time to stop running. Time to face the man who had controlled her life. Time to end the cycle of fear and power. "Let's go," I said, grabbing my jacket from the back of the chair. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let this man tear Maya apart. Not again. We left the house, and as we stepped out into the cool night air, I felt a sense of finality. This was it. We were no longer running. We were taking the fight to him. I didn't know how this would end, or if we'd even survive the encounter, but I did know that we were in this together, Maya and I. And together, we would face whatever came next. The drive felt endless. The dark highway stretched before us like an open wound, the headlights cutting through the fog but revealing nothing beyond the next few feet. Maya sat in the passenger seat, her face illuminated by the faint glow of the dashboard. She hadn't said much since we left. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. I wanted to reach out, to tell her everything would be okay, but the truth was, I didn't know if it would. Every mile brought us closer to the man who had haunted her life, the man who had somehow become the center of mine. I had seen power before, but never like this. This was something darker, something that existed beyond money or influence. This was control in its purest form. "We're almost there," she said quietly, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Are you sure about this?" I asked. "We could still turn around, find another way." She turned to look at me, and for the first time in days, I saw fear in her eyes. "There is no other way," she said softly. "If we don't face him now, we'll be running for the rest of our lives." I nodded, but my chest tightened. I wasn't ready for what was coming. The thought of losing her terrified me more than anything. "Then we face him," I said, forcing strength into my voice. "Together." She smiled faintly, the corners of her mouth trembling. "Together." We pulled off the highway and onto a long, winding road surrounded by trees. The GPS led us to a sprawling estate, tucked away in the woods. The mansion rose out of the darkness like a living thing, cold, quiet, and suffocating. The gate creaked open as if it had been waiting for us. My heart pounded as I parked the car and stepped out. The air was thick, heavy with tension. Maya stood beside me, her shoulders squared. "Are you ready?" I asked, though the words felt meaningless. She took a deep breath. "I have to be." We walked up the long driveway, each step echoing against the stone. The massive wooden doors loomed before us. For a moment, I hesitated. I could turn back. I could take Maya and run. But something inside me told me it was too late for that. I reached out and pushed the door open. The house was silent, too silent. The air inside was colder than outside, and the faint scent of cigar smoke hung in the air. A single light glowed at the end of the hall. "He's here," Maya whispered. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop walking. I followed her, every nerve in my body on edge. As we stepped into the large room at the end of the corridor, I saw him. He stood by the window, tall, poised, his back to us. His presence was commanding, almost unreal. "I knew you'd come," he said without turning around. His voice was smooth, calm, but beneath it, I could feel the power that had always lingered over Maya's life. "You always come back, Maya." She froze, her hands trembling. "I didn't come back," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "I came to end this." He turned slowly, and for the first time, I saw the man whose shadow had ruled her life. His face was refined, his features sharp, his eyes cold. He looked at me, and I could feel his gaze pierce through me like a knife. "And who is this?" he asked, his tone dismissive. "The man who thinks he can protect what's mine?" I stepped forward, my heart pounding. "She's not yours," I said. "She's not property. She's your daughter, and you've spent her entire life trying to control her." He smiled faintly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You misunderstand. Control is love. I gave her everything, education, protection, a legacy, but she chose to throw it all away." "You didn't give her love," I said, my voice rising. "You gave her fear." His expression darkened, and for a moment, I saw the power that had built his empire. "You think you understand power?" he said coldly. "You think you can stand against me?" "No," I said, steadying my breath. "But she can." He looked at Maya, his smile fading. "Maya," he said softly, almost tenderly, "you don't have to do this. Come home." Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice didn't waver. "Home?" she said. "You took my childhood. You turned my life into a cage. This isn't home. It never was." For a moment, he said nothing. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, he walked toward her. I stepped between them, but he stopped, his expression unreadable. "You can't save her," he said quietly. "You'll both destroy yourselves trying." "Maybe," I said, "but at least she'll be free." The silence that followed was deafening. Maya stood behind me, trembling but strong. I could feel the weight of her fear and her courage. For the first time, I realized that I wasn't her protector anymore. She didn't need me to fight for her. She was ready to fight for herself. The room was deathly silent, the tension thick enough to suffocate us both. Maya stood behind me, her presence a quiet force. But it was clear she was no longer the scared girl who had once relied on my protection. She had become someone else, someone ready to face her past, ready to face him. The man in front of us, her father, stood tall, his eyes cold and calculating. He had lived his life in control, never doubting his power. But I saw something in his eyes now, something unfamiliar. He wasn't as untouchable as he had believed. The silence stretched on, and then, slowly, he spoke again, his voice lower, almost regretful. "You don't understand, Maya," he said, his words hanging in the air between us. "You're mine. I gave you everything. You think you can just walk away from that? You can't." Maya took a step forward, her chin lifting slightly, her eyes locked on his with unshakable resolve. "I don't need you," she said, her voice calm but fierce. "You never gave me anything but fear. You gave me control, but not love. I don't want your power. I want my freedom." The words hung in the air, heavier than any physical blow. I could see the man's grip on his own emotions faltering. His eyes darted between Maya and me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross his face. He was losing her, and he knew it. "This isn't a game, Maya," he said, his voice thick with frustration. "You can't just walk away from everything. You'll regret this." "I've already made my choice," Maya replied. "I'm not going back. I'm done living in your world." The man stepped back slightly, his posture still imposing but now tinged with disbelief. I could feel the shift in the room, the power dynamic that had held Maya in its grasp for so long beginning to crumble. He had no control over her anymore. She had taken it back. "You think you're free?" he asked, his voice rising. "You think you can just walk away from everything I built? You're nothing without me." But Maya wasn't listening anymore. Her gaze had softened, but not with fear. It was a look of finality, the look of someone who had made peace with their past and was ready to move forward. "I don't need you to build my life," she said quietly. "I will build it on my own." The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. The man seemed to struggle with the weight of her words, his face shifting between anger, disbelief, and something I couldn't quite name. "You'll never escape me," he muttered, as if trying to convince himself more than anyone else. But Maya didn't flinch. She stood tall, resolute, no longer the child he had manipulated and controlled. "I'm already free," she said softly. "You just don't know it yet." The man stared at her for a long moment, his eyes searching her face as if trying to find some trace of the girl he once knew. But there was nothing left. She had changed, and there was no going back. He turned away then, his shoulders stiff, and walked toward the door. "This isn't over," he said, his voice barely audible, but it was clear he was defeated. "We'll see about that," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. I could see the tension leave Maya's body, the weight of a lifetime of fear lifting from her shoulders. She was free now, and so was I. The man walked out of the room without another word, the door closing softly behind him. I turned to Maya, my heart pounding in my chest. "You did it," I said, my voice thick with emotion. She nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "We did it," she corrected softly. I stepped toward her, the relief in my chest overwhelming. She wasn't just free from her father anymore. She was free from the chains of fear that had bound her for so long. "I'm so proud of you," I said, my voice breaking. "You're stronger than I ever realized." Maya looked up at me, her eyes shining with a quiet strength that left me speechless. "We're both stronger now," she said quietly, "and we have a future, a real future." The weight of the moment hung between us, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the full weight of what we had accomplished. We had faced the darkness, and we had come out on the other side. Together, we had broken free from the past, and now, the future was ours to shape. The room felt different somehow, lighter, as though the oppressive shadow that had loomed over us for so long had finally lifted. Maya wasn't the same girl who had walked into my life all those years ago. She was someone new, someone strong, someone ready to take on whatever the world had for her. And I was right there with her, ready to face whatever came next. Together, in this captivating tale of strength, resilience, and the fight for freedom, Black stories take center stage as Maya, a young girl bound by a powerful legacy, strives to break free from her father's control. This gripping journey explores the complexities of family, power, and personal transformation as Maya confronts her past and takes control of her future. As she steps into her own power, Maya challenges the forces that have held her captive, not only finding freedom for herself but also teaching those around her the importance of courage in the face of adversity. This Black story unfolds with intense emotion as Maya faces a man who once controlled her every move, only to learn that the strength she has carried within herself all along is the key to her liberation. The narrative highlights the importance of breaking free from toxic power dynamics, offering a deeply moving message of empowerment. As the story concludes, Maya's journey represents the ultimate triumph over oppression, making it a shining example of how Black stories can inspire and empower viewers. Through struggle and determination, Maya's story proves that the fight for freedom is worth every sacrifice, and that the path to self-discovery is often the hardest, but the most rewarding. In this unforgettable Black story, The power of choice, courage, and love leads to a powerful transformation, demonstrating that no matter the odds, freedom is within reach.